Miss Transformers 96 here with another video where I'm going to be showing you guys a new leaked image from Figures of the Last Night. So here we have the very bottom image is the leaked image here. Unfortunately, it is very blurry. I'm sure that within the coming days, if not later today or at the latest by Toy Fair 2017 in New York, we'll have much better pictures of this. But for right now, I figured that it was really interesting, so I definitely wanted to comment on it. But we have an image here of three blurred out pictures from Autobots of the Last Night with Hot Rod, Crosshairs, and Drift. Now this is extremely disappointing. I have to say it's very disappointing to see this, and it was something that I was worried about, and now my fears have been confirmed. They are just repainting a lot of the figures from Age of Extinction. When were doing it with the Dinobots, I kind of understood it, and it didn't affect me too much because I'm not a big Dinobot fan, so I didn't mind it too much. We have Bumblebee. I have a million Bumblebees, so I don't really need them to do a new one. So I could care less about that. And then Optimus Prime, they were actually doing a new one for, so I figured, okay, at least the characters I care about will get some new sculpts. But it looks like we're gonna get repaints from even characters that you really didn't expect to get a repaint. But just starting off here, we have Drift. Now, Drift makes sense because at least from the image they have shown us of the concept design, it looks to be almost identical to the original Drift figure. However, it is now red, and he does transform into a different car, even though his look is very similar. I'm wondering if there's any sort of licensing issue because they do seem to be reusing the same sculpt, which would mean that it would transform into a Bugatti Vera rather than a Mercedes. I believe it's a Mercedes now. I think so. I wonder if there's any sort of issue there, and it is disappointing to see them just reusing the same sculpt, considering it won't have the right car mode now. In my opinion, it transforms into a much better car, the Age of Extinction one, though. But it is disappointing to see that the toy won't be quite accurate in that regard. I really hope that there are some differences, at least a new head sculpt, some new accessories, and hopefully they can tweak like the front end of it or something so that it does actually transform into something that at least has the Mercedes emblem on it, something like that. That would be nice. But it is disappointing to see that it was just a straight up repaint. Although with that one, I kind of saw it coming. It wasn't too much of a shock to me. The red that they're going with seems to be a very light red and not bright. At least in the concept art, it looks like they're using a bright red. And in the picture, the very blurry picture that we have of the toy, it seems to be this very plain and light red instead of the kind of darker, brighter one. Then we have Crosshairs. Now, Crosshairs is probably my favorite Autobot from this new team. I'm not a big fan of any of them in particular. There's a couple that I like, but I think that Crosshairs would probably be my favorite. And I actually did really like the first figure for Crosshairs in the Age of Extinction line. Now it's harder to tell. It's harder to tell if this is a direct repaint, but from what I can see, it does look like a direct repaint, which is definitely disappointing. I like the first design a lot, but it would have been nice to have it be a little bit more different. His design in this new movie seems to have a few more details here and there, but it does seem to have the generally the same look. So I understand why they're going with it, especially since he does also transform into the Corvette, the same alt mode as in Age of Extinction. So I understand their reasoning for just repainting Crosshairs. And I like the original figure, so I'm not like heartbroken about it, but it would have just been really nice to get a new updated sculpt that was a little bit better, there's 3 years in between these two movies, so you think that Hasbro would be able to come up with something better for this new one instead of just reusing the same mold as the last movie, which is definitely disappointing. I don't know if I'm going to get it. It seems like the color scheme is darker on this one than the last one, which I actually like. I think that looks pretty neat. So we'll have to see. I like Crosshairs, so maybe I get that just because I like the character. But it is disappointing to see them just using a repaint. Now, the really surprising one is Hot Rod. Now, Hot Rod, I mean, he's a completely new character in this movie. You think that he'd have a completely new figure, right? That's just logical. But unfortunately, he doesn't. It looks like he is just a repainted version of Lockdown, surprisingly Lockdown, with a new head sculpt. I mean, the head sculpt is obviously going to be a new one for Hot Rod, but the figure itself is just a repaint of Lockdown, which is really disappointing. I kind of see why they did this because I don't know if their alt modes are completely the same. They both transform into Lamborghinis. Lockdown was a Lamborghini Aventador. I'm not quite sure what version of the Lamborghini Hot Rod transforms into. It might be the exact same one. So if it is the exact same one, then it makes sense. His alt mode will look great because I really like the alt mode of Lockdown, the figure. I think that it worked very nicely, but the figure itself has some issues to it. It has some quality issues, and the sculpt itself is not identical. It is rather similar. They're both very humanoid in their look. You know, they don't have odd proportions like some of these other characters like Hound and Drift and Crosshairs. So he has more of a normal look to him, which does match Lockdown's look a bit, but it's still a completely different design. I mean, they have the same alt mode, but the robot modes have the same basic structure, but they're a completely different design. So it is very disappointing to see them just repainting it. I'm very surprised about this, or at least I didn't see it coming, but you know, after hearing it, I can see Hasbro doing it. It is disappointing. Would have liked a new sculpt. I hope the head sculpt's good at least. I'll probably get it because it is a new character, obviously, but it is very disappointing to see just how much Hasbro is cheaping out. I'm surprised with their Berserker figure. They didn't just repaint crankcase. You'd think that they'd do that, but they didn't, so that's nice at least. But it's very odd that they are just repainting so many figures. So now, as far as the repaint count goes, we're up to Bumblebee, Grimlock, Slash, Hot Rod, Crosshairs, and Drift, all repainted. And as far as our new sculpts, we have a Voyager Prime, Berserker, and Barricade. So far the repaints are heavily outnumbering the actual new sculpts, which is devastatingly disappointed. I hope that this ends it here, and I hope that we start getting new figures. I think Decepticons, because they're basically all new, we should be pretty good. We should just get new Decepticons, but everybody else is in a really bad zone here for being repainted. I'm really hoping Hound is a new sculpt, because I think that Hound, his structure of the figure that was released 2 or 3 years ago really doesn't match Hound in the movie. The figure has more of a bulky in a strong way, while the movie has more of a bulky in a heavier way type of physique. So I would definitely love to see a newly sculpted Hound. I'd love to see a leader Hound. That would be awesome. But we'll see. I think that there's a very good chance they might just repaint him. But hopefully that won't happen. Fingers are crossed. So I might do an update if we get a clearer image and there's like more stuff I can talk about. But for now, with this blurry image that we have of the Transformers, The Last Night Deluxe, Hot Rod, Crosshairs, and Drift, let me know what you guys think of these figures, these repaints, and thanks so much for watching.